Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Uniting America Peace Intention Experiment. I figured with everything that's gone on with the American election, with an assassination attempt, with a change of candidate, with more anger than ever, we need this little intention experiment to try to cool the fire that's going on in America now. Now, what you'll discover when you do this intention experiment with me is that we're not just doing an intention for out there, we're doing an intention for your heart. And you'll find out with this little experiment how big that can grow and what you can do in just participating and how you will radiate out to your immediate environment and beyond. So I'm thrilled to see in the chat, we're seeing people from all over the world who are taking part. We're also live streaming this on YouTube and Instagram. So if you weren't able to take part via Zoom and you weren't able to sign up, you can do so by just joining us on YouTube or Instagram. So let's get started. I want to share something with you to give you an idea of what happens with an intention experiment. So 1 second while I share this. Okay. One sec. Here we go. And let's share this. Let's get rid of its bar. And there we go. Okay. So I know many of you taking part have been part of intention experiments before, but I want to talk to you about what we discovered and the real importance of why I do an intention experiment and what's really going on. So as you know, I started these in 2007. We've run 41 of them to date, 37 of which have shown positive, significant, and extraordinary effects. And of course, just to put that in context, there is no pharmaceutical drug out there with that kind of consistent track record. So typical experiments are ones like my healing intention experiment, where we focused on the officially most violent place in America, which is St. Louis, Missouri. And we focused on the most violent part of St. Louis, Missouri. And I was working with Dr. Jessica Utz, who is a noted professor of statistics at the University of California, who did all of the number crunching for us. And we got all of the data from St. Louis's police department for 3 years before our experiment. And then we patiently waited for 6 months afterward to find out what happened. And we compared violence data from St. Louis as a whole and Fairground, the object of our intention, the officially most violent streets in America, and all the surrounding areas. This is what we found. 6 months after our experiment, violent crime in St. Louis and Fairground had continued to go up for 3 years. And it continued to go up in St. Louis as a whole and all the surrounding areas. And property crime continued to go up. Fairground property crime continued to go up. But violent crime, the object of our intention, went down by 43%. Very cool, right? But I want to tell you about something even cooler, something even more significant. And since we're talking about the American election, we did an intention experiment nearly 4 years ago. After all of the violence on January 6th, the storming of the Capitol, building and the division that was greater than any time before, just about in America, we wanted to cool down those fires too. So we did an intention experiment just before the inauguration of Joe Biden, and I invited Republicans and Democrats, members of the police department, and African Americans, jihadists, people of all persuasions came onto this intention experiment. And we did an intention to lower violence in Washington, D.C., to make sure that there was a transfer of power that happened peacefully. Now, it was very interesting. I worked with Dr. Konstantin Korotkov, the noted physicist in Russia, who looked at his highly sensitive equipment and showed there was a significant change in it just during the 10 minutes of our intention. Marked here, you can see it here. Very cool, but not the point of the story. Something even bigger happened. I survey everyone who takes part in these intention experiments. I'm even going to be sending a survey to all of you who have signed up on Zoom, just to find out what happens to you afterward. So I always ask, how was it for you? And this is what I find, and this is what I found with that Washington, D.C. experiment, and what I find every single time. 40% felt more love for loved ones. 26% said they're getting along with people not like them, people they normally argue with. 41% felt more loving toward themselves, 30% more tolerant of people who are not like them. 28% forgave things about themselves that they regretted, and 45% more loving toward the world in general. But the biggest statistic, 50% feel more love for everyone they come in contact with. Pretty amazing, huh? But that's not all. They were basically hugging strangers. But they also described very exactly who they'd made up with: estranged partners, estranged children, estranged bosses and coworkers. People wrote in things like this: my partner's more caring, and I feel more love for him. We had a not so easy relationship to some of the neighbors, and they came to see us in a very friendly way. So it rebounds too. People you have had problems with suddenly are more loving to you. My sister and I hardly talk. We're polar opposites. We've been talking every day since the experiment. My husband is opening up and we can get things sorted out. We've started talking without accusing each other. At last, somebody else finally let go of needing to control and keep helping my children. I feel happy, light, ready for a huge change in my life. And many people did say they wanted to make a big change as a result of trying to heal Washington. They wanted to heal areas of high violence or work for peace. People said things like this: I just interviewed with a nonprofit in my neighborhood that works with homeless women to help them get back on their feet. This happens a lot. We have people quitting their jobs and deciding to work for for peace somewhere and joining the Peace Corps. It's easier for me to open my heart again and again during the day and just feel the good and beautiful in me. There are not so many negative thoughts anymore. The negative can't break through my tank, and it feels so, so good. I'm so thankful for this experience, wrote somebody else. Healing this area means a lot to me and to the world. And I get these kinds of comments every single time. I'm less fearful of strangers on the street. I approached a homeless man who was crying. It didn't even occur to me to be afraid. This really brings hope like nothing else ever has, wrote somebody else. And the other amazing thing is 1/3 report physical improvements. Somebody wrote in on this particular one, I didn't use my asthma spray at all. And today only once. Wow, I feel calmer, more balanced. My shoulder had been hurting for weeks, and after the meditation, the pain went away and didn't return. Yay! I had hernia surgery yesterday. To everyone's surprise, I haven't had one bit of pain. I have more energy than usual. I seem to breathe more easily. I have interstitial lung disease, but breathing well now. Feeling younger and more flexible, said somebody else. I feel my body releasing excess weight that came on during the past year. Less chronic pain and stress burnout from work. More peace and calm and groundedness. So we hear this over and over and over again. And the changes may be permanent. For instance, somebody wrote about peace being with them since a historic peace intention experiment of mine for Arabs and Israelis in 2017, where we brought people together from 9 different locations in the Middle East and did an intention together, and people were sending love back and forth afterward, Arabs and Israelis. This person says that intention profoundly changed me. Another one wrote, I had profound life changes. Relationships that I thought were destroyed were revised and flourished. I am closer than ever before to my youngest. Everything I visualized about relationships manifested and continued to do so. People get changed by participating in these altruistic intention experiments. Now, I want to explain a little bit why this is so important. So, I want to talk to you about Dr. Nicholas Christakis. He studies social contagion. He's at Harvard University, and he looks at social networks. Now, this is an example of a little map he does when he maps relationships. With this, he's looking at happiness and how it spreads down a social network. Not because people self-select happy people to be with, but because of the natural spread of happiness. All those little yellow dots are happy people. And as you can see, it's spreading, and it's the primary color in that relationship map of connections down social networks. But he also discovered something extraordinary. When people do things for other people, it goes 4 degrees down a social network. So look at this. Eleni, if she does something kind to Lucas, Lucas is more likely to do something kind to Erica, who is more likely to be kind to Jay, who's more likely to be kind to Brecken, and on and on and on, spreading 3 degrees of separation. So I want to tell you about another experiment we did last autumn. We did a series of Israeli-Palestinian peace intention experiments calling for a ceasefire. This was soon after October 7th. Now, we did seem to have a ceasefire right after we did our 3, but clearly we haven't achieved a ceasefire or an end to the war yet. However, look at what happened. So we had 30,000 people taking part in this. 30,000 people with these 3 experiments. So think back with Nicholas Christakis' work and how social contagion spreads, and also what happens to people when they're part of these intention experiments, and how their heart opens up, how their relationships improve, how their love spreads to total strangers and beyond, how their bodies heal. So if those 30,000 people participated, all experienced their own peace and healing, and remember, we get about half, but let's just do simple math. Let's imagine all 30,000 of them experience some sort of peace and healing. Look at what happens. Imagine they each know 50 people And that's the most conservative average of your social network now. Most of us have a lot more, thanks to social media and so much else. They could change the lives of 1.5 million people. That's what happens with that 3 degrees of separation, of doing a good turn and affecting other people, who affect other people, who affect other people. So that's what happens with 50 people, 1.5 million. Or if the total network is 150 people, other estimates of what our social networks are, they'll change 4.5 million. That's half the population of Israel. Then imagine that that network is 600 people per person. That's the most recent scientific estimate from Columbia University. The number of people one intention experiment affects explodes to 1.8 million living in peace. Now, let's do a little more math. Let's take those 1.8 million affected by that one Israeli Gaza intention experiment. And if each of them know 600 people, that's 1 billion people allowing peace to enter their lives. So what I'm trying to say to you is, yes, it'll be cool if we affect our target, but the bigger target is your heart. You are a champion for peace just in participating in this experience. Your love and light and change and peace can literally change the world. So let's get started. Everybody get very comfortable. This is going to be a 10-minute exercise. I'm going to play a little music too. So just get comfortable. And I'm going to go over the intention with you, have you bring it down to your hearts, and I'll instruct you in what to do. And then we'll hold it together for 10 minutes, okay? Our intention is for the American presidential and other elections to proceed peacefully and with dignity so that candidates can focus on political issues and not resort to name calling and other tactics that incite violence and division, and for peace and unity to prevail among the population. Imagine that in your hearts. Hold on to that intention, and I'll be holding this slide up so you can always go back to it during these 10 minutes. I want you to bring it down to your hearts, and then we'll send it out. So let's take a deep inhale, a deep exhale. Deep inhale, a deep exhale. A deep inhale, a deep exhale. A deep inhale. And now, on the exhalation, let's hold the following intention. Our intention is for the American presidential and other elections to proceed peacefully and with dignity, so that candidates focus on the political issues and not resort to name calling and other tactics that incite violence and division, and for peace and unity to prevail among the population. Let's take that thought down to our hearts and visualize as we send it out a dignified and peaceful election campaign on both sides, on all sides, even with third-party candidates. Let's imagine dignified debates. Let's imagine both sides being respectful of the others. And as I said in my invitation, that people from all sides of all the aisles are welcome to come to this intention experiment because it's all about bringing us all together in peace. So let's bring it down to our hearts. Let's send it out. I'm going to play a little music and we'll hold this for 10 minutes. Okay, everybody, take a deep breath. In your own time, come back onto this webinar. For those of you who have been part of this on Zoom, I'm going to be writing to you afterward and asking you how it was for you, and asking if you'll write out and take a short survey, as I always do each time, to see if anything has changed in your life. This is all part of the science of intention and what I'm looking forward to finding out about your ability to change. So over the next few days and weeks, see what happens in your own life. Has anything become more peaceful? Has anything changed? Has anything been cured or improved in your physical health? Do you see people you were estranged from suddenly being closer to you? Do you have more peaceful yearnings in your heart? Anything like that? And for those of you who have taken part in the last 10 minutes, did you notice any changes? Being part of this giant network, this international network, doing an intention for peace. We've had people from all over the world take part. If they did, and if you did, write it in the chat. Just write anything you noticed. Did you have any physical changes? Did you feel goosebumps or a lot of heat coming off of your computer or phone? Did you cry when you were part of it, as many, many do? Anything that happened, make sure to write down. And also, as I say, keep track of what happens in your own life and see if you are more peaceful, and see if you can be the change, you can create the peace that we all need in America and the rest of the world. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for being part. Please check out me, my website, and any kind of future intention experiment. As you know, they're always free. And I have an announcement about a very big intention experiment I'm going to be doing in February 2nd, just a few weeks after the inauguration of our next president. I'm holding a giant international intention experiment. We'll be having people translating in many languages. I'm doing this with Gaia TV, and we'll be broadcasting around the world. So put that date in your diary, February 2nd, 2025, and be part of this extraordinary event. And let's see if we can really inflate those numbers so that billions are affected by this around the world. And one great thought is enough to heal the entire world. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.